Hello and welcome back to the Ballymaloe Festival of Food podcast. In this episode, we're bringing you a live panel discussion recorded in the grain store at the 2025 Ballymaloe Festival of Food. This conversation is called Cooking Up Content, and it explores how food creators are using social media to tell stories, share knowledge and build global audiences. The panel is hosted by Reverend Richard Coles and features Daniel Rankin, the New Zealand chef whose cooking videos with his pug Fraser have reached millions of viewers, Amber Guinness, the Tuscany-based cook and best-selling author, local hero Barrie Quinn, a Donegal grower passionate about chemical-free farming and food education, and finally broadcaster Rebecca O'Keefe. Together they talk about the realities of creating food content today, from authenticity and storytelling to dealing with algorithms, online criticism, and the power of connecting people with where their food comes from. These conversations happen throughout the Ballymaloe Festival of Food, where chefs, farmers, writers and food lovers gather to share ideas and celebrate great food. So settle in, enjoy this panel discussion from the grain store, and if you'd like to experience it in person, of course you can find out more information about the festival at ballymaloefestivaloffood.com.
Hello everybody. A wild Ballymaloe welcome. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Welcome to the grain store for our platform event. I'm joined by Amber Guinness, by Daniel Rankin and by Barrie Quinn. And between us, we just worked out, this sounds like a vainglorious boast. Sorry about that. But we've got 3 million followers, haven't we? Social media. Well, no, hang on a minute. Before you get too carried away by that. I think you're leading the pack, Dan, with
about 1.5.
About 1.5 million. You've got nearly 1 million.
Getting there.
I've got 500,000 Russian bots, maybe 2 or 3 people. But Amber's got 28,000, but they're the ones everybody wants. So
trailing behind, but hey ho.
So all of us in our way have careers, them in food particularly, in which social media and the kind of people who follow social media plays a very big part. In some ways more obviously than others. I'd start with you, Daniel, because you have caught the eye of many a subscriber to social media with not just your cooking, but the way you cook too. Fitness is a big thing for you. Your chest has probably got as many followers as your recipes, I would think. And you also have an unusual sous chef in the person of Fraser, your pug.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
I've always been into cooking. I've cooked from a young age, and I've been filming cooking videos throughout the years, but a lot more dialogue, long form, landscape, and they were quite difficult to come up with the content, especially dialogue and especially filming. So I didn't know how to use the camera, and I'd always rely on others to film my content. So it was really inconsistent. I decided just to buy a camera and figure out how to use it so I can shoot my own content. And I did. I bought a camera. I watched hundreds of YouTube videos, just started making videos, fitness videos. I own a business in New Zealand. It's a gym. So I shot all my content for the business and basically learned how to use a camera from that.
So it started off actually as a way of advertising your gym rather than being interesting.
Yeah, and then lockdown came around, and it was such a weird time. And I wanted to teach my gym members how to create some healthy meals, and I wanted to make them laugh as well, because it was, everyone was quite anxious and scared at that time. So I knew how to teach them how to cook. I didn't know how to make them laugh, and I was like, oh, everyone loves Fraser, my pug. I'll chuck a outfit on him, and I'll play some 80s music and, slide around the kitchen, and yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We'll get on to it, but Barrie, how about you grow interesting fruit and vegetables in the unpromising boggy land of Donegal?
Yeah.
How did you get 1 million people through social media?
Well, it started out, as Dan said, in COVID times is when I actually went from a backyard gardener into commercial growing. I took a leap, decided it was a passion and a job I really wanted to do. But that social media side didn't really kick in until a couple of years later on. I was showing the garden, I was showing what I was doing, but it wasn't until about 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, that I made a post, and it was about the fact that we had a shortage of scallions in Ireland.
Oh no!
And imagine that. You'll be shocked
But
to the reason why.
Why?
It was because there was a hurricane in Mexico.
Oh, shut up.
That was the reason.
Come on, this is a little bit
That's the
Jurassic
truth.
Park. How did that work?
Because 85% of the scallions taken into Ireland are coming from Mexico. And other countries included, but Mexico is the main bulk. So that really hit home with a lot of people. It got a lot of traction online, and I seen a lot more followers coming in saying, this was information that I had in my head, and I was like, right, I've got a lot of stuff like this, so maybe I'll start talking about that.
So that's starting a debate about where food comes from,
Yeah.
for example. And that's a big debate, right?
Mm.
So you're sort of getting into more than growing vegetables.
Yeah.
And you're actually talking about the bigger issues that lie behind
Absolutely.
food security and everything.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, with her 28,000 A1 followers, Amber is based in Tuscany in Italy. And what are those 28,000, how do they interact with you, Amber, and what you're doing, growing and making food in Italy?
Well, so I think people really love, I mean, again, it started with COVID. I think we all have that in common. I had a day job, and then I was cooking part-time for private clients and had lots of people asking me or saying to me, you should write a cookbook. And it was just sort of everything came together in the same moment, I think, where everyone was at home, they were feeling frightened. I was in the countryside in Tuscany making food. I think people found it soothing. And so I had this flurry of activity of people beginning to follow me, which sort of coincided with a publisher asking me to write a cookbook and me having time to do it. So it kind of, everything came together really nicely, and I just sort of cooked and wrote recipes. And I would say, I was saying earlier, I'm a sort of geriatric millennial. I like posting a photograph and writing words because I'm a cook and a writer. I'm a dreadful videographer and editor, and that's possibly why I have my 28,000 A1 followers who, rather than a huge number, because they're all quite analog as well. I'm quite analog. So it's lots of messages, DMs back and forth, reposts, savings of recipes, but mainly those people funnel, I think a huge proportion do actually buy my books, which is quite nice, and then they write to me about that.
So you have quite a bespoke relationship. I mean, 28,000 is an awful lot of people, but it's not 280,000, is it?
Yeah.
So you can have a sort of relationship with your...
Yeah, I think so. You know, there are people who pop up who I definitely recognise, and I can actually kind of respond to most messages. And as you say, it's so funny because I remember a year ago or something, sort of saying that I was a bit freaked out because someone in the street had recognised my son, saying, "I know that child from Instagram." And I was like, "Oh God!" I sort of didn't think it mattered so much because I only have 28,000 followers. And someone said to me, "But that's sort of 8 times the size of the village you grew up in." You know, if you think about it in that sort of terms, it is actually quite a lot of people. But our views of the numbers are quite skewed, aren't they? Because we have amazing, you know, content creators like Daniel who have millions of followers, and yeah, it's just funny.
But so you have no sense living your life that there are 28,000 or 2 million or 1 million people out there who are looking at you and thinking about you and engaging with your content.
Exactly.
Did it happen exponentially for you, Daniel? Did you all of a sudden, you posted a video, the next thing you knew, you were world famous?
No, well, I started off, once I came out with that concept of, 45-second, to a minute videos, I think people's attention spans these days have really decreased, so I wanted to make my videos short and sharp and engaging. And by the third one, I started to gain followers from that, and I knew, okay, I'm onto something.
But you'd done your homework, hadn't you? You'd really thought about how you were going to do this.
Not really. I mean, I started because of my joy of cooking and my joy of hanging out with my best mate, my dog, and I had no intention on growing or trying to gain followers. That wasn't my intention, and it still isn't my intention now. If I get to a place where I don't enjoy it and my dog doesn't enjoy it, I'll stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as we're having fun, I'm going to keep putting content out there.
How do you know if Fraser is having fun? Because he's the most impassive dog I've ever seen. Yeah. He just sits there with a kind of pug look. Doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I know he enjoys it. Because I just shoot in my home kitchen, and when I'm setting up, when I grab his special stool that he sits on, once I grab it, he gets so excited and just runs around the house. Zoomies is what I call it. Yeah, zoomies. Yeah. He does a few laps, and then I get the tripod, and he knows we're shooting. We're filming, and he gets super excited.
And that means also you've got every pug lover in the world has now got a motive to join.
Yeah, I guess when I first started creating content, I had a goal. I wanted to make him the most famous pug in New Zealand. That was probably my main goal. And
that's a great goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how about you, Barrie? When did you realise that you were sort of connecting with people? And did you expect that to happen? Did you have a plan?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. My original plan was to show people my garden. Well, original was, I'm growing this, please buy it. You know, it was to say I have this type of vegetables, these beautiful...
What type of vegetable and what you're growing, and why should we buy them?
So I'm a chemical-free grower. It started a long time ago. This whole, to bring me to this point, was I started in 2009 in Australia. I headed off like half of the country here back then, and I ended up on a large-scale conventional farm. And it was the first time I came face-to-face with agricultural chemicals. And I didn't know nothing about it at the time, but it started the ball rolling about thinking about pesticides and whatnot, and I really dove in deep to that. And 2016, when I came home to Ireland, I started growing. It was a real journey, like, to go through all these stages. And in 2020, when I started to grow, what was the original question?
I can't remember. So, did you have any sense that you were going to connect with so many people?
No, I absolutely not. No. It was definitely winging it, as we say.
Yeah.
Like we are today.
Everyone's winging it. Everyone's winging it all the time.
It definitely grew very organically. Excuse the pun.
Right.
It was like that first post about the scallions. People connected with it. I got comments. I didn't know that. That's ridiculous. Why is that happening? Why we can grow them here? And so I started to do a little bit more information about that, and then it grew and it grew.
I'm interested, for all of you, COVID, lockdown, was a sort of key part of this, wasn't it? It obliged us to find, well, I mean, we were all sitting at home, we couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So how are we going to connect with the world? And social, I just remember, I wish I'd bought shares in Zoom in 2019, don't you? Do you remember how quickly that happened? Because desperate to connect, we used all the means we could. And of course, social media gave you the platform to do it. But then your problem is, isn't it, you and 4 billion others, how did you cut through? How did you connect to the people you wanted to connect to, Amber?
I think it's just sort of staying consistent. My husband always says people hate it when you're in England. People only like it when you're in Italy, you know, so I guess that's part of it. Me personally, sorry. You know, the people who follow me, they're not interested in me going to a garden in England. They want those rolling Tuscan hills and Tuscan food. If I started cooking Indian food or something, they'd be furious, I think. There's not that much variation that I can do. I feel it would annoy people.
But that's because people are not just thinking about what you're growing and how you're cooking it. They want a whole package, yeah? They want, it's something aspirational, or it's rather, I mean, in lockdown, when we're all miserable and frightened, to see a life happening somewhere that seems to be radiant and fun and full of opportunity was powerful.
Yeah, and just beauty. I think I really try and, you know, curate beautiful tables, get lovely tablecloths, and I think just sort of visually people really connected with that, and it was a form of escapism. And particularly at a time when people were cooking a lot at home, they were trying to differentiate evenings. So I was giving a lot of tips of do this on a Tuesday just so it doesn't feel like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because we're all at home. Sort of ways to punctuate the week.
Tuesday is tortellini and brodo.
Exactly, yeah.
And the thing, Dan, for you as well, I mean, it was, you had your finger in two pies, so to speak. There was cooking, which I remember doing, but also fitness was a big thing because nobody could go out. So we were following people like Joe Wicks and lots of other people too, just to see a way of trying to keep ourselves healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I still dabble in the fitness content, but in most countries around the world, 10 to 15% of people have a gym membership, but 100% of people need to eat. So
go figure.
Yeah. So I mainly focus on food content now. Yeah.
Just incidentally, how many other people want to have New Zealand's most famous pug?
I don't
how
know.
big is that for you?
I mean, like I've had Fraser since he was 8 weeks, and he's 7 years old now, and so we didn't start making content till he was about 5.
So he's a very grounded pug.
Yeah, he's very grounded pug. Yeah.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah.
And with you, Barrie, so you started getting interested in. I'm just as fascinated about scallion. Ireland, land of coal cannon, can't produce its own scallions.
That was a comment that I had regularly.
Well,
it comes down to the fact that our farmers can't make enough money off them to grow them because our supermarkets have devalued our vegetables, and it's easier to ship them in from countries that produce them cheaper.
And that's to do with the economies of food and production.
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a scandal, right?
Of course.
And it seems absurd, doesn't it, that you... I mean, I have a little cottage in Northamptonshire, and it's in a conservation area, and we're obliged to thatch it in Northamptonshire long straw, which is the most expensive and the least durable roof material you could possibly use, right? So, but where does Northamptonshire long straw come from? China.
Oh my God.
You can get it there.
Of course.
No.
And it's just sort of ridiculous. And that's a big issue in food, isn't it? And, and that's one of the things that cut through to people with you, was that you started having the argument that they wanted you to have.
Yeah, well, it was highlighting the fact that we are importing a lot of food that could be grown here throughout the year. And it's all down to profits at the end of the day. The companies want to make more money. Irish farmers are not supported like they should be. And I'm sure when you dig down, consumers, people who are going to the shops want the good food. They want Irish farms to be selling their food, but they're just not supported in the way they should be.
But also, it's one thing to want it, isn't it? It's another thing to feel that you're connecting to levers which you can pull and push and something happens, right?
Yeah.
Do you think in a way it's empowering people to think that they might be able to bring their influence to bear on this?
I think what's missing in our society nowadays is that connection between the producer and the consumer.
Yeah.
It's been lost again through the supermarkets, who've brought this convenience that has meant everybody waltzes straight into the shop, and we have everything we'll ever need on the shelf. And so we've cut out that it's such an important connection to how this food's produced and who's doing it. And so when you know, and that's what's happened with me, the people who buy my produce see me online thanks to social media, but they have that direct link now to that fact that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm showing them I'm doing it what is the right way. We're doing it chemical free, and we're caring for our land, and we're building biodiversity. And so these customers are customers for life.
And there's a good story there, isn't there? It's because you returned to a family farm that hadn't been worked for 50 years.
That's right, yeah.
That's already a Netflix drama, isn't it? Who's playing you?
Yeah.
But people like that. It's like what you say. It's the story thing.
Of course, yeah. Because it's real. I mean, everybody lives their lives, and everybody has their own stories. And so when you can connect with someone's story, it's a beautiful thing. It's like you know someone, and it's trust. It's trust.
And also with you, Daniel, as well. People like, you get the dog, you get the fitness, you get the cooking, and also another thing that struck me about it is that you are, whether you intend to be or not, you represent Samoan culture, for example, because your heritage is Samoan, right?
Yeah, I do.
And that's something which, I mean, certainly in this part of the world, we don't really know very much about, apart from rugby, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's important to you?
Yeah, I grew up in Samoa, so I lived there for about 16 years, and then I moved to New Zealand. Yeah, it's definitely home for me, and I guess I don't really put too much Samoan culture in my content. Some of my recipes, I love to use coconut. That's probably the main Samoan ingredient that I use in my recipes. But I guess I don't show it too much in my culture because I guess deep down inside I know I'm Samoan, and I don't feel like I need to express that to anyone else. But yeah.
Do you feel that you have that you've kind of a pin-up in a way for what Samoan culture might look like now, living in New Zealand?
A pin-up, sorry?
A pin-up. You put a face on it. You put a chest on it too.
You
see what I mean?
Yeah.
People relate to that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, not many people know I'm Samoan. Because of, I guess, my skin color. My mom is full Samoan and my dad is half Samoan. So, I mean, when you look, most people think I'm Mexican or, from South America or somewhere there. Yeah.
I just thought you were a farmer from Donegal.
I thought Donegal at first.
Yeah. Even, I guess my accent isn't Kiwi as well. So usually when people ask me where my accent's from, that's how Samoan English-speaking people sound. Or this is how they sound. Yeah.
How about you, Amber? Are you the English lady in your village? Or the Irish lady in your village?
My dad very much was, because he moved to Tuscany in the late 70s, early 80s, and I went to school there and have lots of friends and things, so they definitely, they still call us l'inglesi, but sort of there's a bit more rootedness, I would say, which is nice, but it's funny kind of always feeling a little bit, like when I'm in England, I don't feel entirely English, when I'm in Italy, I don't feel entirely Italian, so I kind of, I understand that feeling of... Yeah. The moving around.
And yet totally Insta.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. And then people talk to me in Italian for a while, and I've got a very thick Tuscan accent. And then after about 10 minutes, they wait, are you English? And you go, yes, but it takes them quite a while, and then they get really confused.
Yeah, when I speak to Samoans in Samoan, they just stare at me for a little bit. And they're like, in shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Fraser? Does he respond to English or Samoan?
He responds to both, actually.
Bilingual.
Yeah,
Bilingual.
dog.
Certainly the leading bilingual.
Yeah.
Pretty certain about that. Are you conscious that doing what you do, you're also a window into somebody else's life? I'm talking about Tuscany, Amber.
Well, I sort of feel I definitely, didn't invent Tuscany or Italy. It's sort of one of the most popular, visited, written about, food cultures that's been exported around the world. So I think I'm lucky that I can sort of cut through a little bit because I have spent I've spent 23 years out of 35 living there. So I definitely kind of have an understanding, and I speak the language fluently, so I can speak to producers. I have, kids who I went to school with who are now making amazing pecorini, cheeses in Montalcino, who I go and see, and so I can kind of really understand the process and get sort of tease out stories from producers that I can then put into my books in a really organic way.
But the stories are for you to write down rather than for you to do. You're doing a different thing from what Barry's doing with the story, right?
Yes, I mean, if I go and visit a producer, I will probably do a reel or put stories up about it or something. But it's different because it's not my story. But I do try and put a window onto interesting producers because there's such amazing stories to tell. They're worth telling. And as you were saying, we've lost that connection. When I go to England, I live in Tuscany, so I talk to producers every day because that's just how I shop and how most people shop as well. I go to England and 2 or 3 of the aisles in the supermarket are ready meals, which is just not something that happens in Italy at all. There might be like one part of the fridge which is this big.
I always love those ready Italian meals, English supermarkets with a picture of a nonna on the front going like that. I think probably not going to happen in real life.
Exactly, no thanks.
Nonna would have a heart attack.
Exactly.
The other thing, of course, is that one thing social media enables you to do is to be led more by images than by words, right? Insta in particular. Do you think that's true? Do you think it's image-led?
Well, I lean heavily into reels. I don't use...
Tell me what a reel is.
Well, short clip.
How short?
Less than 3 minutes. Well, it used to be 90 seconds, and now it's been expanded to 3 minutes. So you're kind of not forced, but you're going to focus on. Well, what I do is try to get the point across that I'm trying to get across. Try and leave somebody walking away with maybe change the frame of mind about what I'm getting. Now, I don't just always go down that road of everything is dark. Scallions should be going. I try to have a bit of fun, talk about nature. Talk about growing and that there, but yeah, the reels is what I focus on because I get a lot of feedback from that.
But sorry, I'm really thick about reels. The algorithm doesn't like it if you do 3 minutes, doesn't it? Or it's better if it's shorter.
I think they don't mind it now because they've
done it.
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
It's okay. They encourage it. In
Interesting.
Fact,
okay. Yeah.
Do you reel, Amber?
I reel, but it takes me 2 days. I mean, I find it exhausting. I like pictures and words, but I do it. And I had the word, not the company, meta moment at my publishers the other day where there were 6 people from my publishing house in front of me and then 2 people from the New York office on a huge screen next to me. And they were all nagging me and berating me about not doing enough reels. And they're just going, this is like a nightmare.
Did you feel, I could get to this point with, I have a big following on X, but X has turned into a hellscape.
Yes.
So trying to negotiate your way through that is quite difficult. I've also managed to get locked out of Facebook and Instagram by this hack. This hack that happened that's excluded lots of people from Facebook and Insta. Really? So I'm on an enforced holiday from Meta products. Thank you. But then I feel like my dad. I remember my father programming a video for the first time. I lay on the carpet, poking a machine like that, and I feel that I have sort of been. I suppose what I'm talking about is that in this emerging and dynamic world, you need to be up to speed with where the technology is going, right? Because that's where the audience is going. How do you do that, Daniel?
I think. For me anyway, I try not to get too carried away in the analytics or the algorithm because you can get into the space of a paralysis, where you're just so focused on different things and you don't create content. So I just try and come up with an idea and get the idea out of my mind as fast as I can and get it out there.
So it's all about the content. It's about getting your idea as freshly as you can onto the screen.
And I think if you're authentic, you're vulnerable, and you're engaging, your content's going to do well, regardless of algorithm and trends and anything like that.
So I want to take that apart a little bit. Authentic means that you're not pretending to be somebody else.
Exactly, yeah.
Engaging, you do things which people want to watch.
Yeah.
Tell me about vulnerable.
Yeah, I think vulnerability is really important because it allows you to be authentic, right? Like, I think you need to be vulnerable in order to be authentic. You need to be able to express, whatever your creative avenue is, whether, it's cooking or, it's applying a comedic value or anything. You need to be able to express your feelings and emotions in a way that aligns with your creativity.
And doing that within the highly constrained realities of a reel?
And a reel. And you need to be able...
Blimey, these things you can do in 3 minutes. Amazing.
I think, vulnerability also allows you to not care about what other people think. I think if you're going to create content, you need thick skin, and you need to be able to put yourself out there, and you need to be able to take negative feedback and criticism. Yeah.
Well, this raises we've been talking about advantages and the highs of engagement with social media, but the lows are perhaps, very much discussed at the moment. Anyone who has been on what I still insist on calling Twitter, but change of management has changed the name too, it has gone from being a place of opportunity and delight to being a place... I've never blocked people before, but now I start my day by blocking people because they invite me into a world in which I do not wish to participate. Yeah. And that's the issue, isn't it? It's open access, and what social media can do is bring into your life, into your world, into your consciousness, hostile attention, unsympathetic attention. What does that feel like? What does it look like? Have you got any examples?
Yeah, it gives everyone a voice and an opinion. And it's easy to express. You just type a few buttons and click, bang.
Which is theoretically good, right?
Yeah.
But...
And I think, you should be able, if you're going to put yourself out there, you have to be prepared to receive that type of criticism, and it's up to you how you respond to it. I always just respond with a love heart and kind of move on. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Thank you for your useful feedback. We'll take it seriously on board. But you don't engage, you wouldn't get into a row, into an argument?
Nah, never. I always just love heart and move on from there. Okay.
Someone once speculated about Fraser and about what you're going to do when Fraser comes to the end of his life. It seemed a bizarre thing to interact with you.
Yeah. I think that was probably around the earlier days when I started creating content. Nowadays I don't get too much, or I just don't pay too much attention to it.
But that's interesting because there is a point of... When I had this, I had dogs, and my last two surviving dogs died last year, and I had...
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. One, they were both very old. One had cancer and had to be euthanized, and the other one was deaf and blind and had dementia, and the vet said, not going to adapt to this well. So I had a lot of following because of the dogs, the sausage dogs.
Yeah.
I liked that. And so anyway, I put up a post saying that they had died, and or rather that I'd had them put down. And quite a lot of people got back wanting to know how they died at the same time, but in this slightly hostile way, as if I was depriving them of the detail of their death. And I thought, well, actually, that was me being vulnerable. I love the dogs very, very much. To lose them was heartbreaking. And all of a sudden you realise that not everyone is respectful of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known how to do a love heart. Or maybe that.
Well, there is that emoji.
But it really did, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've been on seriously on Twitter since 2011, and I've had a lot of fights along the way, but I've always tried very hard to be respectful of other people, and if I could do a love heart, I'd do a love heart, not to get into a fight. And often something that starts as a hostile comment, you can turn into a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's harder and harder. And I find there's this accumulation and aggregation sometimes of just a little kind of scarring that happens when you deal with that. And sometimes I find that less manageable. Do people shout at you?
Not so much. I mean, I know other people that's in my position.
What about the scallion growers of Mexico?
Hopefully they haven't seen the video. No, I
unwelcome attention.
No, I don't get too much, thankfully. There is a little bit. I've never gone to bed at night angered or annoyed from a comment or a message. if I've got something where somebody's questioning a video, I will sometimes have a brief discussion with them, and you'll know very quickly whether they are worth discussing with, you know.
So whether it's a serious inquiry or whether someone just being
somebody might just bark at you, you know, straight out and just say, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, and then I'll say, well, do you want to talk about it? Like,
so would they question your professional competence?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time they'll say, like, you like I a lot of the stuff I talk about is coming from studies that I've read, like, you know, respected studies, and so an odd time I might forget to tag that or put that study in, and so I'll get not a lot, but somebody might question that, and then I'll say, would you like me to send you the study? And then they go very quiet very quickly.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, no, but I am, compared to the people that I do speak to who are on social media, like friends of mine around Donegal and Mayo and people like that, they get so much abuse because they're doing a different style of Instagram, and they might be...
So they're inviting an argument, do you think?
Not necessarily. I think it's just they're doing their own thing. There might be like a presenter style, you know, attending events and presenting, and I think they're kind of more open to people who are just not hateful, but some people can be nasty because they don't like to see someone else doing well. And with what I'm doing, I mean, it's food. Everybody eats food. It's very relatable. And I think that what I'm trying to get across is I don't want to hurt. I want people to feel better and have a healthier life and eat well. So if somebody's coming along to me and saying and being nasty, like, you know, you're not a very nice person. You know what I mean? So, but I've seen it, and I've talked to the people that are in the position. I don't know if you guys get any online abuse, but some people are my friends suffer terribly with abuse online. It's awful, like, it really is.
What kind of abuse?
Well, it gets to the point where the people have to be blocked. Like, they start mentioning that you're, you know, well, it starts off with a nasty comment, and they might go down the road of mentioning your family and stuff like that. It gets that.
Really,
it gets
really
that bad.
horrible stuff.
It gets that bad.
How about you, Amber?
I was just trying to remember. I think, you know, I've definitely had some really horrid messages and comments, but not enough for it to kind of affect me wanting to be there, and I like erasing nasty things from my head and ejecting them. So I sort of I can't even remember an example now. But it's completely unacceptable, and I'm afraid I'm much less of a big person than you, Daniel. I don't love heart. I block. I just sort of go, it's not an energy I want, actually.
You just don't want that on your...
Yeah.
But this is not a conversation I want to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think there's an issue? You talked about engagement, Daniel, and obviously you are all engaging at what you do, but do you think that sometimes it invites hostility, like, who do you think you are, or pretty face, or something like that? And in a way, it's a way of not taking you seriously. I've just said you've all got pretty faces, by the way.
Thank you.
Come on.
Yeah, I guess for me, once I love art, it kind of ends there. You know, they stop. But I try and respond to all the nice comments and the nice DMs I get, and I find sometimes that, you know, when I do that, and they end up engaging a lot more. And, you know, if I'm engaging with 10 to 15 people in my DMs, and it's nice stuff, like, hey, thanks, appreciate the comment, you end up having to have a conversation with 15 different people in your DMs, and it just takes up so much time.
Well, I was going to say, how do you manage, as you grow sort of exponentially over time, how the hell do you, I mean, we did an event today with Richard Hart, the baker, and he was very kindly saying to people who was buying a book, do get in touch with me if you need any help. And I said, are you sure you want to do that? Because how do you manage if 10,000 people all of a sudden want to have a conversation?
Yeah, I set like a 10-minute timer and just be authentic as I can, and get to as many people as I can in that time, and then it's, you know,
you've done the best you can.
Yeah,
you can't do better than that.
Yeah,
it's a bit like being a vicar. Yeah, you're disappointed.
I'd rather do that than, you know, set up an AI bot that's just chatting to people.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah. Yes, although the Instagram has a new feature, which is an AI. You can create an AI bot, and people can come and have a chat with the AI bot. And I actually created an AI bot, which was Fraser, so people could come onto my Instagram and have a chat with Fraser. But Fraser was leading all these women on my Instagram, and then all of a sudden the chat would stop, and then I'd get an email, and they'd send me screenshots of the conversation, and, you know, Fraser AI chat has been chatting to these women, you know, like Dad really loves you, and you're having a good time, and like he's thinking of you a lot. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I removed that AI.
I think that sounds like a sensible move.
You created a monster.
Well, apparently with AI you have to train it, and I didn't spend time training my AI bot, but I'd rather just not have that.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, well, there are two really significant pressures. One of them is how do you maintain a relationship with followers when the numbers become unimaginably high? And 28,000 is unimaginably high, seriously, I think, Amber, away. And the other one is how do you continue to feed the appetite? So people want stuff from you. Do you give them weekly content? Do you just do it when you've got a good idea? How do you build that relationship with people so they will know to come back when you've got something? How does that work?
For me, I have such a loyal following. I really do, of people who, when I try to post every day. I try to post every day, not when I'm at Ballymaloe Festival of Food. It gets lost a little bit, but as I post every day, I'm trying to do that authentic, relatable connection between myself and my followers. And they thankfully keep coming back because I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm getting across the points that I want to get across. And like Dan was saying, it's hard to interact with everyone. Very, very, very hard.
Yeah.
But again, you try your best. You have a limited amount of time. Like my schedule at this time of the year, especially in the garden, is just go, go, go from the sun goes up to the sun goes down. But if I stop to have a drink of water, I'll go 10 minutes. Here we go. Connect. And if there's comments on the video, and especially when it's talking about somebody's asking me, do I need to prune my tomatoes? Absolutely you do. Please do, because you'll get a better yield. I love doing that. I love that interaction.
So you want to have that relationship?
Of course I do, yeah, because my whole ethos, everything that I've become from just starting as a market gardener is I more than anything in the world, I want people to grow their own food.
So you want to have a personal relationship about that with the people who follow you?
For sure.
But you have more people than you can provide that bespoke service for.
Yes.
So you've got to work out, do you need to work out a way of, do you think about that?
So I did work out a way last year, and it was because the messages I get is like that. Should I prune a tomato? How deep do you sow this seed? I can't answer them questions, so I put together a series on how to grow your own food from the very start for a beginner gardener. 6 videos, and it was massively received around the world. There was, I think, up in about 50 different countries around the world. People were putting seeds into the compost from watching my videos, and it was fantastic. I think we're up at about 3,000 people are growing around the world because of my videos, which is this is what I'm about now. This is my life. I want to push this.
No, I thought you were scallions, and now you're tomatoes all of a sudden. How about you, Amber? Do you ever think, oh my God, I've got nothing more I can cook in Tuscany. Let's go to Umbria.
No, I think it's such. Well, also my second book wasn't specifically about Tuscany. It was about sort of a wider region, which is the Mediterranean Sea, from Tuscany to Sicily. So I do jump out of Tuscany, but I definitely, like at the beginning of the year, I was handing in a book, and I just couldn't actually even look at Instagram. So I went quiet for about 6 weeks, and had to come on and sort of apologize. And people were so sweet and just said, we totally get it, and you can't juggle everything. And then I've tried to be quite consistent since. But then there are other times when I go, sorry again, I've disappeared again, sorry.
I do think I come off social media for Lent as a sort of as a discipline, and that's 5 weeks. And at the end of it, I kind of think, I go, hello, I'm back, and people go, no. Were you away? Kind of wonder, don't you?
Yeah, like people don't care, honestly.
Yeah.
They don't really care, do they? They care a bit.
Yeah.
How much do they need to care? They need to care enough to click through to you, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like everyone's got their own stuff going on in life that if they don't see you on social media, they'll see thousands of other people on there, and they'll just,
It's a crowded space.
Yeah, it is very crowded. Everyone's competing for attention on there.
Do you ever feel, and to extend the canine metaphor, do you ever feel the tail is wagging the dog, and that that you are now becoming, your existence is to serve this thing that you've created?
Sorry?
Do you feel that it's become too big in a way, and that your existence is now all about maintaining and upholding and refreshing?
No, not at all. I mean, I try not to identify with anything, really, because once my account gets hacked or anything like that, my identification would be an Instagram creator. But if I just identify myself as Dan. If that happens, yeah, cool. Maybe I've lost my Instagram account, but I'm still a pug dad. I'm still a brother. I'm still, a son. Yeah.
Important not to. I mean, I think there's been a couple of sort of celebrities who've gone very badly wrong in the UK in the past few years. I think one of the reasons that happens is that you over-invest in the version of you that is out there in the world doing the thing, and it becomes a little bit divorced from the reality of you, which is back home doing the normal things that everybody does every day. And sometimes there's a knock on the door and the two confront each other and they don't recognize each other.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to be careful, right?
Yeah.
Do you think so, Barrie? Do you think do you try to maintain a distinction between a private life, I suppose, and a public life? It's that old argument.
Yeah, I do. I at the start of this whole process and going through social media life, I was allowing my children to be videoed, and one day it just clicked with me when the followers started to get more and more. I says, maybe I need to keep something back here, and not broadcast. I mean, my beautiful.
You've locked them in the house for how long now?
Not quite, not quite. But they're so fully involved in the garden. I feel like I know that my followers would love to see that, and the really wonderful followers that are loyal to me would love to see that. But I think you have to draw the line at a certain point, for me anyway, and say, you know what, they can make their decision to go on social media as they get older.
Sure.
So I hold that bit of privacy back. I'm not massively open on. I focus on certain things as what I talk about, and I think that's key. The key points must be focused on.
So you'll guide that discussion. It's not.
Yeah,
there are boundaries.
Yeah, there is boundary. Well, yeah, because I don't come on and just talk about anything random. We're talking about food. We're talking about nature. We're talking about well-being and health. That's what I want to do. I think if I make a video that's not focusing on that, then the people who have clicked to follow me might say, "What's this guy on about?" We're not here for this. But in my heart, I know it's the right thing. What I'm doing is it's for the good of people.
Sure.
That's what I want to do, and I never lose sight of that. I've never lost sight of that. I want to use it. It's such a powerful tool. Social media is at the moment, for advertising, for marketing, whatever that is, it's such a powerful tool. And I believe that when you're in a position like I have, it's wasted if you don't use it for the good of somebody else.
Absolutely, like so many things. And Amber, you mentioned a while ago that someone asked about one of your children. And did that make you change the way you did things?
It really, it made me jump. Sort of, I wasn't actually with them. He was with my husband, and he was sort of pushing the pushchair down the street. And someone said, "I know that baby. I know it from Instagram." And I said, "Oh my God, okay, that is not good." So I mean, I do sometimes, because he's very adorable and he looks very sweet eating my food. I do sometimes, but he's never the lead image. He'll be sort of buried, somewhere. But yeah, I really try to keep that to a minimum, because it does give you a jump if a stranger knows your baby's name.
So I think it's a very interesting thing with social media is that the growth of social media was so fast. We didn't evolve an etiquette sufficient to deal with it, I think. We were still playing catch-up, I think. And that thing about, I sometimes think engagements on social media are like road rage. If someone, it's a car arguing with a car, then if you connect with the driver and it's person to person, it sort of changes. People behave a bit better, I think. There is something about the kind of encounters you can have on social media that is a bit like road rage.
Yeah,
I think.
my brother made that point. He says that social media interactions are the new road rage.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I feel I made it myself in my own.
No. Didn't I tell you that backstage? No.
These people have got to go. So I'm really sorry. We've gone on. We were a bit late starting. We've gone on a bit, but I'm sure if anyone would like to ask a question or make a point, now's your chance. Please don't hold back. You were just going like that. Any New Zealand pug owners here? Oh, hello.
Well, through Ballymaloe, I've become obsessed with Ballerina Farm. Obsessed. I mean, really, I didn't know who she was. Does everyone know who I'm talking about? Yes. And it was through the fact that she was at Ballymaloe that I sort of, yeah, got into it. The 8 kids, the giant farm, the dancing. It's fascinating. And the farming. What do you think of their type of farming?
There?
Barrie,
I
yes.
don't know who that is.
You don't know who that is. They're a big farm in Utah, so it's a very different kind
What are they
of farming.
called?
Ballerina Farm.
I've never heard of them, sorry.
Yeah. Have a look.
I'll follow.
Interesting. But they uprooted all 8 of their children from Utah and put them into school in Cork and did the 12-week course here she's on 10 million, I think.
Blimey.
That's
Well,
impressive.
that sounds like that sounds unmissable.
Yeah, exactly.
How did that happen?
How about you, Dan?
There's a Kiwi creator called Louis Davis, and he really showcases, Kiwi culture, Maori culture, and just family, and especially in the South Pacific and New Zealand, a lot of the men are quite suppressive in their emotions and feelings, and he's a great role model in being able to be more expressive. So, and I love his culture. I love his content. He's always fishing and just having fun with his family and stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Barrie?
So I'm all about explaining about ultra-processed foods and all this sort of line of things, and gardening. So there's a few. Nettles and Petals is one of them. Jamie, Nettles and Petals, 1.2 million followers. He does really, really brilliant, hobby gardening, backyard gardening, how you can grow your own food, and great content. Sophie Morris is another one who's walking around shops and saying, look at your labels. And I try to get that point across as well. Like, read what's on the labels is so important. So there's 2 really, really great people to follow. Everyone should.
Mine is Mentor Pilot. He's a Swedish pilot who works actually, I think it's Ryanair, or he used to, and he's now he now trains other pilots, and he analyses plane crashes. Now that sounds awful, and it's really not a horror thing. He just looks at how catastrophic failure happens. Right. He's called Peter, and he's very engaging, and he just absolutely meticulously takes apart these awful things that have happened in a way which is completely without ghoulishness or inappropriate interest, but he just shows how things that shouldn't go wrong, and it's absolutely fascinating. Mentor pilot, nothing to do with food. Sorry. Sorry. Any more questions before we? Hello.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think social media is the issue. It's the user. It's like using a hammer and blaming the hammer. It's the person using it. You need to be disciplined and set some boundaries. And I think that's really important when you're using social media, because there's a lot of good to it and there's a lot of bad to it, and it's up to you how you use it.
Yeah, I agree. I would say the same thing. It's just discipline. If you're I realize how important boundaries were, when I was just scrolling and being like, oh my gosh, years ago, I would have been reading a book in this moment, and so actually just kind of setting timers, I think that's a really good tip. And just, practicing some discipline, which is hard nowadays, because it's designed to be very addictive.
Yeah, don't go down the road of doom scrolling, because that'll get you nowhere. Yeah. Focusing on, I think, on content creators that you really value, and taking from them as opposed to going through your phone like this all the time. Maybe go to the creators that are putting value in your life is very important.
I think it's important if you're a creator yourself and you're looking for content, consume content and see what's trending and see how you can apply that trend to your own style. I think that's important. Yeah. Oh, you mean like, for example, how do I balance enjoying the Ballymaloe Festival without having to pull my phone out and film everything? Yeah, that's a great point. I think for me, as long as it's food related, I'll pull my phone out and food related. But if I'm just going for a run or doing some exercise around Ballymaloe Farm, that's just my time.
Yeah, it's sort of cordoning off the time which is work and which isn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have your limitations. Like there's if you're it's an addiction to your phone. As a creator, you're getting lost in that. It's focus on your niche, and don't vary from that, because you will end up like, there's a lovely glass of water. Maybe I'll just take a picture of that bead of water running down it, and then you're lost. You're lost. Then that's it. So you have to focus on your niche. Like
stick to your niche. I like that. Yeah.
I think fasting is quite a good idea in everything we consume, but I think in social media it's really good. Come off it for a while, set yourself time when you won't use it, partly because you'll maybe sustain a personal relationship because they won't leave you because you spend all your day on the phone, right? Speaking from bitter experience, but there you go. And don't be an arsehole.
Very important.
Isn't it?
Very important.
That applies
in all
to most things in life, doesn't it? It's a great one.
Yeah. Write that down.
Don't be an arsehole. Well, I do have it written down on the top of my screen. Don't be an arsehole. Well, anyway, I'm sorry, folks. I'm sure you've got things to do. But it's been great to have you here. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much, Amber, Dan, and Barrie.
Thank you very much.